Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central on a midweek, as we call it. Most people say it's Hump Day, Hump Wednesday, and we're saying welcome as we look at some of the biggest stories from the news and most importantly, current affairs and issues that are indeed affecting you and I every single morning here on Breakfast Central. My name is Joe Hansen.
And I am Ogoni. Thank you very much for joining us. I would always encourage you to be a part of our conversations and of course simply tweet at us this morning on all platforms at News Central TV. Share your thoughts with us on these conversations that we are having. Are you concerned about the possible increase in telecom's tariffs that scheduled to start in February 2025? And of course, there are other stories that maybe bother you. You can simply send us a message on any of those social media platforms. And also, if you're on the YouTube stream watching us live, also leave a comment in the YouTube comment section. Welcome you as always, and of course for the next 2 hours we have some of the major conversations happening here in Nigeria. Before our headlines this morning, and also before we share with you what our top stories are, there's some stories that are already in the news this morning in the Vanguard and in the Punch and the Daily Trust this morning. You can see the Daily Trust reporting that with regards Japa. Hospitals will be empty in 2 years, says the CMDs, and that is because, of course, Nigerians have continued to flee Nigeria. We're losing a vast majority of our very, very agile workforce who are fleeing to other countries across the world. But, that is also mostly because of the state that Nigeria has been in the last couple of years. It's been, there doesn't seem to have been any significant improvement in the quality of life. Neither has the government been able to assure Nigerians that things are truly, likely to improve or get better. And of course, if you remember in 2025, just this year alone, according to news reports that we have, at least the ones that we've heard, I spoke about this yesterday, that 147 lives were lost in Borno State. The Nigerian government didn't necessarily pay a lot of attention to it. Neither did Nigerian news media platforms pay that much attention to it. The Punch yesterday put it in their news bulletin, but you could barely even see it if you didn't pay close attention to the Punch newspapers yesterday, because it was written in very, very tiny print, and it's completely shocking, and unbelievable how 147 lives can, be lost in a country, and it would receive such, pitiable media traction, and of course also a response from the Nigerian government. It's hard to understand, and of course people keep talking about the value of the Nigerian life, but it's really just hard to understand. How do you lose 147 people? And it's not because there was a natural disaster. We didn't suffer a tsunami or an earthquake or a landslide or anything like that. These people lost their lives, to terrorists, Boko Haram in Borno State. And the Nigerian government still, just moved on. We just carried on. Those numbers do not surprise the Nigerian government. They do not shock us enough to make certain demands of the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government that failed to protect those lives doesn't feel, any sense of, or doesn't seem to feel any sense of failure on its part. We've simply just moved on. 98 people died in Borno, in Niger State, as a result of the tanker explosion, which I will be talking about later today.
Sure.
And there's still nothing. You don't expect that right after that incident, you would see that Niger State will invest, a lot more heavily in fire infrastructure, firefighting infrastructure. You don't expect that the Niger State government will invest more in the police to ensure that next time that such happens, they will be better prepared if it ever happens again. Nothing really would change. And I tweeted something yesterday, as a, offshoot from our conversations, that a Nigerian will, be in his teenage years, grow up, get married, have kids, and the road that was bad when he was a teenager will still be bad, when he has, 2 kids, one of them in primary school. Those same situations will still exist. The poor quality of firefighting infrastructure that existed in Niger State or or your state or any other state would still be the same situation 20 years later. And this is budget after budget, budget padding after budget padding, administration after administration, minister after minister, government after government. It's really, really heartbreaking, just seeing the value that is placed on first of all, the Nigerian life, and then the accountability that the government, holds itself to. It is, pretty much almost zero. And that is because, if I was to advocate, I would say that we should address government the same way we address the corporate, world in Nigeria, which is if you work in a bank, if you work in, FMCGs or anywhere, telecoms, there are certain standards that you must meet, as a company. Because if you do not meet that standard as a chief CEO or as a head of marketing or as a head of, business strategy or something, you will get queried or you will get fired.
So
but the Nigerian government doesn't hold itself
who?
Sorry, now?
Who's querying who in Nigeria?
That's the problem, because the people should be the ones querying these leaders and firing them if they fail to meet certain standards. But we don't work with those standards in Nigeria, and that's why the Niger State government now will not understand that it has failed in its responsibility to protect those people.
Let me also shock you. Coincidentally, for those who may not know this, just yesterday again, from our team in-house, there seemed to be another tanker that fell yesterday. There was another tanker yesterday, and it was something that was quite shocking. Just a few days after over 90 persons died, the same Niger State had another tanker, and the video is everywhere as well on social media. Guess what? When the tanker capsized or actually tumbled over, you would naturally think that people would still have the gruesome image pictured in their memory, so they would avoid that space. But guess what? It wasn't the same. Rather, you had Nigerians rushing again to scoop fuel. Same thing, just as we discussed. It happened again.
But the thing is, I don't even blame Nigerians. And the reason, I don't blame these people is because poverty dehumanizes an individual. Poverty takes away that level of, mental capacity that you have to protect yourself sometimes. It's, some people will say, oh, they are greedy, they are desperate, that Nigerians, want to steal from a falling truck. That's their character. But that's not necessarily what it is. I think poverty dehumanizes them on that level where all you think about every day is survival. You're thinking about where you're going to get your next meal from. And so when you see situations like that, yes, it is expected that people will want to take advantage and put themselves at in harm's way. And that is what poverty does to a society. It takes away that sense, that you should have. But the Nigerian government, and this is part of which we're Nigerian, so I don't want to be too much into it, but the Nigerian government itself still has that core responsibility to, even if, yes, you have a people that have been dehumanized on that level by poverty, it's still your responsibility to ensure that those people are protected. So you fail them, first of all, by making them so poor, but you should still know that it's your responsibility to protect them. And when such incidents happen, like a fire disaster, you should still be there to protect them. It should still be, that the Niger State government and the Nigerian government, be able to own up that it failed to protect these people from themselves, if you can even say it like that.
Anyway, talking about accountability, yesterday we did talk about the Daily Trust newspaper that had this very shocking heading, talking about federal government re-awarding the Abuja Kaduna Highway contract to an inactive company. And I think since we're talking about accountability, we must give kudos to the Daily Trust for carrying out that investigative report. But the Minister of Works did come out yesterday to debunk and deny such claim. That's what accountability does. He came out to say that there's no such especially from the federal government. David Umahi there talking and saying that it never happened, it never occurred. He said such thing never took place. The federal government also went ahead to say that, recall that road was withdrawn by the government from Julius Berger Construction Company. And the Minister of Works made clarification stating that though the project is awaiting approval by the Federal Executive Council, it didn't award it to anybody whose company seems to be inactive. And that's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to holding leaders accountable. But then again, This is an update on the story, and we're following up with it very closely, and we're very certain that if we continue like this to ensure that accountability is a watchword, just like many have said, truly, if Nigeria were a company, you would be operating on standard procedures and practically also looking at KPIs. But what's Nigeria's KPI? That's possibly another conversation that we would have. But let's bring to you what we will be talking about today on our top stories here on Breakfast Central on a Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, we'll be reviewing FCT Minister's media chat. We'll take a look at some of the aspects and points that he made. Telecom Subscribers Association rejects tariff hike. Yes, they do. They say they're not going to accept it. Serap sues issues a 48 hours ultimatum for tariff hike reversal, and President Tinubu meets Ogoni stakeholders. This is one story that was indeed making the headlines right from yesterday, and then we'll also take a look at the newspaper front pages for today. It's going to be a filled edition, so stay with us. Coming up next is Breakfast Headlines.
Now let's begin Breakfast Headlines by telling you that President Bola Tinubu and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, on Tuesday held a closed-door meeting with a delegation of Ogoni leaders led by Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State. Also present at the meeting was the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, Mele Kyari, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, and other ministers and aides. The meeting came after a coalition of civil society organizations demanded an allocation of $1 trillion from the federal government for the cleanup of the Niger Delta and compensation for lost livelihoods before the resumption of crude oil production in Ogoni land. And for nearly 2 weeks now, residents of Bukuma in Degema local government area of Rivers State have been daily deserting their community following an explosion that resulted in a fire in OML 18 belonging to the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The townspeople are citing grave health concerns as the pollution spreads from the creeks to neighboring Kalabari communities, disrupting fishing and farming activities in the area.
This oil explodes here. Even you can look the palm tree, the fruit, everything damaged, burn finish. Women go fishing, nothing. Men go fishing, nothing we catch. This is my palo, this is my canoe man, nothing we catch. Ordinary hand now with the carry come now. And nothing we go feed do not to eat. Please, may I tell the federal government to come and help us. Because we are...
The Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has opposed the proposed increase in the value-added tax rate as outlined in the federal government's tax reform bills, warning that the move could worsen the economic hardship faced by Nigerians. The federal government had proposed a phased value-added tax hike from the current 7.5% to 10%, 12.5%, and ultimately 15%, a move the TUC described as ill-timed and detrimental to the welfare of Nigerians already grappling with inflation, unemployment, and soaring cost of living. Speaking during a press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday following the union's National Executive Council meeting held on November 26, 2024, TUC's President Festus Osifo said maintaining the VAT rate at 7.5% was crucial to safeguarding Nigerians from additional financial pressure. And the Bureau of Public Procurement has expressed concerns over the allocation of a little over 1.5 billion naira for capital projects in its proposed 2025 budget. The Director General of the Bureau, during a budget defense session with lawmakers in the House of Representatives, says that the estimate falls short of its proposed 72 billion naira submitted during its budget planning process. The chairman of the Committee of Public Procurement, while responding to concerns raised by the Bureau, blamed the situation on the current budget ceiling imposed by the federal government, but promised to look into the situation with members of the committee. Still in the news, the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebholo, has commended President Bola Tinubu's administration for its commitment to ensuring food security across Nigeria. Governor Okpebholo made this disclosure at the launch of the State Food Outreach Scheme of the Renewed Hope Initiative of Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu in Benin City, Edo State. On her part, the First Lady, represented by by the Vice President's wife, Hajia Nana Shatima, observed that the program is a social investment initiative aimed at providing welfare packages for the vulnerable and underprivileged Nigerians. Earlier, Edesili Anani, the coordinator, Office of the First Lady of Edo State, expressed gratitude to the First Lady for the Renewed Hope initiative. And still in Edo State, the governor, Monday Okpewolo, has sworn in 6 new commissioners and 4 board chairmen. Addressing the newly sworn-in executives at the new Festive Hall, Government House, Benin City, Edo State, Governor Okpewolo charged them to help him drive development and progress in the state, stressing that his administration is in a hurry to bring the needed development. Responding on behalf of the newly sworn-in executives, Paul Hobamu thanked the governor for finding them worthy of the appointment and assured him of their commitment and dedication to ensuring the Edo people enjoy good governance in the state. And that's all in breakfast headlines. Let's move now back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbara.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Don't forget, you can join the conversation online on our socials. You can also drop your comments on our YouTube live stream, and not forgetting too on X, formerly known as Twitter, and other social media platforms. But let's go straight to a very interesting package. President Bola Tinubu has tasked leaders and stakeholders in Ogoni land to actually put behind past grievances so as to support efforts in restoring the environment and remediating polluted islands and lands in Ogoni River State. Now, President Bola Tinubu made this call as he received leaders and elders from River State to actually chart a way forward, ensuring that the environment is indeed clean. But let's take a look at this package from our man, Amadine Uyi.
They arrived at the State House in their numbers, leaders of thought from several walks of life in River State. The meeting was chaired by President Bola Tinubu, with several cabinet ministers in attendance, the National Security Advisor, and the Governor of River State, Siminalayi Fubara.
Let me thank Mr. President for bringing us here, and we will be very patient to listen to you and to adhere to your instruction.
The presence of this delegation is a testament to the Ogoni people's readiness to engage constructively in the pursuit of peace, justice, and a sustainable development. Their willingness to participate in this dialogue reflects a shared hope for meaningful progress and enduring solutions.
Let us put the grievances of the past aside. It cannot heal the wounds if we continue to be angry. I know what to do in the memory of our beloved ones so that their sacrifices will not be in vain.
Nigeria's Minister of Environment says that much has been achieved by the current administration, especially in its efforts to restore the environment in Ogoni land, situated in River State through remediation efforts.
This administration has been doing very well because the project has been there for over 5 years. It's with this administration and the commitment of the president that have gone so far. And I can give you some statistics. Number one is that when we came in, only one water project was commissioned. But as I'm talking to you now, 8 have been commissioned. So 7 have been commissioned under the administration of the president, our president, Bola Tinubu. In the area of remediation, what is the most important area we are trying to address, we have done about 36 sites. They have been completed and they have been certified as environmentally conducive for people to continue doing that.
The Minister of Regional Development, however, urged citizens in the area to maintain a conducive atmosphere that will enable development to thrive.
You have to talk about peace before you talk about it. So, like I said, it's all about bringing the peace to the people of Ogoni land. And once the different groups start to operate together, there'll be peace and there'll be resolution of it, and every other thing will follow.
The meeting presents a big leap in the federal government's efforts to ensure the environment in Ogoni land is restored. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Well, we would have more conversations on that particular story, but many had thought that that meeting would have seen a mediation between the current governor of Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, and the former governor of Rivers State, and now the FCT minister, talking about Nyesom Wike. But then again, it was about the Ogoni people, and we do know what has happened in the past years: the oil spillage, environmental hazard, and not forgetting to even the death of a very, very outspoken media broadcaster, not forgetting to one who spoke about the environment extensively, one whom we remember very clearly in our minds, who stood for what was right. And I'm talking about Ken Sariwa, who actually pushed the boundaries to ensure that what is being done today is what could have been done years before. But it's a good move by the president, Osarige. We've seen President Bola Tinubu saying it's time to sheath the swords of anger, animosity, pain, differences, and ensure that everyone moves forward.
Yes, I mean, it's always good to say that.
You took some time to say yes.
The Ogoni people, I mean, to be honest, the Ogoni people really, you know, want their land cleaned up. You know, the idea of sheathing swords and all of that, you know, is maybe secondary. You know, the primary thing here is that the Ogoni people want their lands cleaned up and they want to be respected, you know, before oil exploration continues. So, you know, I mean, the government needs to answer questions as to where we are with that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to a very interesting story, still centered around what we just saw, which takes us to another conversation about the FCT minister. I'm talking about former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike and the current Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Well, President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday hosted closed-door meetings with the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, alongside a delegation of Ogoni leaders at the presidential villa in Abuja. Don't forget as well, the Chief of Staff was there. NSA, National Security Advisor Nuru Ribadu, was also there. Although the agenda of the meeting was not made public at first, but it may not be unconnected to the Ogoni cleanup like we've seen in that package. However, don't forget that recently, a meeting was equally held some few months back that brought these two political juggernauts together to equally also make peace, especially for Rivers State. But what has been the conclusion? Well, we've seen back and forth, we've seen arguments, we've seen fights, we've seen issues about the assembly being divided, and Nigerians are asking, possibly that's what led to the FCT minister holding a media chat a few days back, discussing extensively and speaking about clarity, especially concerning his relationship with himself and Fubara, who happens to be the current Rivers State Governor. But let's have our guests join us right away as we explore this conversation. We do have joining our special assistant to the FCT Minister talking about Nyesom Wike. We do have a special assistant to him on public communications and new media. Mr. Lere Olayinka joins us this morning all the way from the FCT. Good morning and thank you for buying out time to speak with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right. First off, let me get your thought on the meeting that held yesterday. You're a special assistant to the FCT minister. You may have at least gotten a little bit of information on how that meeting went. Our correspondent put a package together that we just saw, and we did see what the goal is for that meeting. But could you also share with us what the mood possibly was like between your principal, who happens to be the FCT minister, and the current governor of Rivers State? Are we going to see any peace accord anytime soon between these two?
Well, the meeting of yesterday was strictly on Ogoni issue. It was not issue of FCT. It was not issue of Rivers State government. It was not issue of Rivers State politics. It was also not issue of what was happening. The issue between political family of the FCT minister Nyesom Wike and the other people who betrayed the family and went their way. It has something to do with that. So it is not within my purview to begin to talk about Ogoni cleanup, Ogoni issue and all that. So it is strictly on Ogoni.
I'm just asking, we know it's strictly on Ogoni. I'm just saying, being the SA, did you get any feedback in terms of the relationship between FCT Minister and, of course, the River State Governor? What do you think? My question simply was, do you think there's going to be any, of course, peace in sight between these two?
I doubt if there will be any issue. Maybe the peace we are talking about will begin to witness when the Supreme Court adjudicates on all the issues. And I've said this at informal fora, talking to friends and all that. The issue in Rivers is beyond the FCT minister. Nyesom Wike. It's beyond him. It is about Nigeria. It is about sustenance of democracy. If we are going to sustain democracy, we need to take individual out of issues. We need to take it out of issues. So it's not about two people. It is about somebody choosing to disobey, choosing to work at variance against the laws of the country. It's about somebody choosing to function as the governor, as the House of Assembly, and probably as the judiciary. You don't run democracy like that. For instance, you don't run democracy with 3 members in the House of Assembly. It is illegal. Not even when courts of competent jurisdiction they've made pronouncement saying that this thing is wrong. You cannot run House of Assembly with three members. House of Assembly of 32 members, you cannot run with 3. So the courts have the court rule, and the governor of Rivers State choose to disobey the court. This is not about Wike. It's not about anybody. It's about a governor disobeying the court clearly, flagrantly. So I don't want to also begin. That's why I've been telling people, don't let us continue to reduce this to Wike Fubara. What about pronouncement made by Justice Kolawole? What about the pronouncement made by the appeal court saying that the budget of 2024 that was presented to 3 members of the House of Assembly was illegal? Nullifying that budget and saying that 3 members cannot sit, accept budget from the governor and pass the budget. The constitution is clear as to members of House of Assembly that can pass budget. 2/3 of 32, to my mind, will not be 3. The constitution of Nigeria is clear as to number of House of Assembly members that can sit. 1/3. 1/3 of Rivers House of Assembly member, 1/3 of Rivers House of Assembly, to my mind, will not be 3. So we should, like so we have been saying, we should stop ridiculing democracy by reducing this issue to Wike Fubara. It is not Wike Fubara.
Yeah, but Mr.
It is about a governor running the state like a fiefdom. Simple.
Yeah, Mr. Lainka, yes. Just for clarity, you're saying it has nothing to do with, or we shouldn't make it a Wike Fubara, conversation. Are you then implying that Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, has had no, role or no, business at all in the River State political crisis that has existed since, pretty much since Sim Fubara got into office? Are you saying that Nyesom Wike played no part in any of it, has no business in any of this crisis, and his name should not even come up at all? Is that what you're implying here?
Why will Wike not have a role? Who made Fubara governor from being government house cashier? Who made him governor? Wike made him governor from being a mere government house cashier. So Wike will have a role to play, and he's playing a role. We are not disputing that. We are not dismissing that. What we are saying is that even that Wike is playing role, should we also petition the Constitution of Nigeria? Should we also throw away pronouncement of the courts? That's what I'm saying, it's not about Wike. Now, you are saying that House of Assembly members have decamped. Whose power, who can declare seat of House of Assembly vacant? It is the court. It is not the speaker. It is not the governor. It is not anybody. And as of today, as any court declared the seat of those assembly members vacant, the answer is no. Court of Appeal ruled that you cannot present budget to 3 members. The governor is still going ahead. He's on appeal against that judgment. And he's still going ahead presenting budget to 3 members of House of Assembly. Is that about Wike? Is that about Wike? Is that about Wike that the president of Nigeria sat, called leaders of rivers, and they sat together, the president intervened and said, okay, and they reach a compromise, a conclusion. Do this, do this, do this, and this. Is it the fault of Wike that the governor choose to call the bluff of the president and tell the president, go to hell?
Yeah, but Mr. Olayinka, kindly hold on. You know, what I'm trying to point out here is, yes, Nyesom Wike is not the appeal court. Neither, will he be, blamed for Fubara's decisions, even after court rulings. But there's still, a part of the story where it will be said that it is his influence and the role that he has played that has led to the breakdown in the political, in the crisis that we're seeing in River State, the political crisis we're seeing in River State. It is still a large part of what he, what he has done, and his loyalist in River State and whatnot. It's what you're describing now is fast forwarding, to recent court rulings, but we're talking about right from the start, and that even necessitated the president to try to mediate and set up an 8-point agenda or agreement between both of them. I mean, his involvement that even required Mr. President to set up this meeting is what I'm referring to.
The role that he has played.
Yes, Mr. Olayinka, please go ahead.
What? Hello?
Yes, kindly go ahead.
Yeah, the role that you are saying Wike has played. Is it a crime? Is it a crime that he stood and he made Fubara governor? Is it a crime as a leader of that political family, Fubara became governor through that political family? Is it a crime? Is it a crime that some people who are Fubara senior in that political family were made out, became House of Assembly members, senators, rep members? It's not a crime. It's not a crime. If he has done that, courtesy also demands that as the head of that political family, if we have input as to what happens, but as the FCT minister for wars come out to Nigeria to say, I am now the governor of Rivers State, he's not the governor. Fubara is the governor. And the governor himself has consistently told Nigeria that he has the red biro in his pocket. He's the one holding the red biro. So the issue is simple. Let Fubara function as governor, play his role, and let the House of Assembly play its own role. But somebody is the governor. Somebody is holding money that should be used by the House of Assembly monthly. Somebody is holding it. It's not releasing it. Somebody is disobeying court judgments, telling the court, you don't matter. Whatever you say does not matter. And Nigerians are saying that it is Wike. It is Wike. Is it Wike that is making Fubara to disobey the courts? Is it Wike? All right. Is it Wike that made Fubara to say, President, you don't matter?
Yeah, well,
all right,
just, a follow-up. I know Johansson was coming in, but just a follow-up, like you've said, he made Fubara governor. He also has, made certain, individuals also get into the House, the National Assembly and, become maybe even ministers. I'm sure Nigerians would read that in a certain way, but I want to give the benefit of that is that what you're saying really is that his influence, and his support, is what got these people into these offices. Let's assume that's what you're saying.
The way they read it, let me come in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me come in here. Let me come in here. Nigerians who want to read it will be Nigerians who are emotional, who are sentimental, who don't understand politics. Can you become governor if you don't have your party nomination? Can you be in the House of Assembly if you don't have your party nomination? Somebody made you to get that party nomination. Somebody made you. Somebody even bought the nomination form for you. You did not buy the form for yourself. Somebody went to Abuja and bought the form, gave you to fill, collected the form from you, took the form to Abuja to go and submit. Who made you governor? That person made you governor.
Yeah, but I don't know if,
if
we're not seeing a flaw here.
And I can say it, I can beat my chest anywhere that Wike made Fubara governor.
Nobody doubts that.
Even Fubara cannot do that.
What I'm pointing out here is, this is what I'm pointing out. And, now you are, of course, doubling down on Wike made Fubara governor. Yeah, I guess so, but, doesn't that also can't that also be interpreted that the people of Rivers State don't necessarily have the ability to truly choose a person that they want to be governor? They don't have the ability to look through all the politicians in Rivers State and say that this is the exact one that we want, because the way that you've described it, Nyesom Wike allowed or approved of this particular individual and then facilitated him being governor. And so it's taking the power away from the people of Rivers State. And also, you say, from what you're saying, shouldn't he have a say in the way that the state is run as the former governor, as the person who made Fubara governor? Shouldn't he have a say? But isn't Fubara as a governor allowed to be an independent mind, to be able to make his own political decisions, to be able to make his own governance decisions as a governor? Is he allowed to do that?
Who is disallowing from doing that? Who is saying he should not do that? He is taking his own decision. And the decision he's taking is to disobey the court, is to call the bluff of the court. That's the decision he's taking. That is what he's doing. And I did not also say that, I did not say that Wike should interfere with governance in Rivers. No. He's not the governor. Fubara is the governor. But what I'm saying is that Wike was the one who took Fubara to Rivers people. How many campaign rally did Fubara address? Did Fubara address any campaign rally? Did they address any rally?
Mr. Olayinka,
it was Wike that was addressing rally now.
So, Mr. Olayinka,
that was speaking to Rivers people.
Can we rightly say that?
Person. And the Rivers people listen to him.
Okay, so Mr. Olayinka, I do have a series of questions for you. So, can we rightly say then, with this remark you just made, that Fubara was not elected by the people, but was selected? Because you said how many statements? He didn't make any statements. He was taken on campaigns, who spoke out, and so on. Can we say that?
Fubara was elected. Somebody sold Fubara to Rivers people. Somebody told Rivers people, vote for this person.
Okay.
Somebody took him to Rivers people, addressed Rivers people, begged Rivers people, and Rivers people listened to that person and voted for Fubara. That person who took his time, who used his energy, who used his political connection, political resources to address Rivers people, to plead with Rivers people, to get Fubara to be elected. that person deserves some level of respect too.
Okay.
Simple.
Okay, fine. We understand that the person deserves a level of respect. One, can we call this a case of godfatherism? And secondly, can you share with us, what does the FCT minister really want from Governor Fubara? He has helped him get to where he's gotten to. Let's accept that he has his influence, has been able to put Governor Fubara where he is today. But what is he asking for from Governor Fubara that seems to be causing this entire loggerheads, making them get, go at each other every now and then? Because if he's gotten him there, don't you think you should let him work for the people?
Let me answer your question. Two questions. You mentioned the issue of godfatherism. It is always convenient for us to sit back. We don't want this godfatherism. Even in religious settings, in Christendom, there is godfatherism. There is God the Father. Somebody, Apostle Paul, was godfather of Philip. So there will always be godfather. I'm a Yoruba person. They say, Tia obare ni bala ola okiya. When you don't have somebody to push you, to support you, you are not likely to get to be successful quickly. So when you have someone to push you, to support you, that does not make that person clearly a godfather. The person has pushed you, he has supported you the way he supported other people. He has made you governor. He has made, he has supported other people to also be House of Assembly members. It is a political family. Some certain things are expected of you to be done by you as governor. Because, number one, let me explain this clearly. You have a family of 6 children, 6 male children. When the father dies, the head of the family dies, and they choose to share the inheritance of the father. The one that they give the family house, the country home of the father, that does not make that person head or leader of the family. He has, by privilege, Fubara got the biggest part of the meat. It is a privilege. That does not make Fubara to be superior to other members of that political family. It's a political family. That does not make Fubara to be superior to the person who got House of Assembly slot. That does not make him. So he is now the one that should have known how to marry some of these things together. Let me give you an example. Governor Ododo became Governor Ododo of Kogi State. Before he became governor, commissioners were appointed by his predecessors. He's working with those commissioners now, no complaint, nothing. Nobody is talking about godfatherism in Kogi. Nobody is talking about godfatherism. But somebody became governor of Rivers State. Even before he swearing in, he was already looking at those who made him governor, those who supported him in the face and saying, I have the red biro. I can do anything with you. You ask me, what does Wike want from Fubara? He does not want anything. They have come out of, they have said a lot of things. He wants money from Rivers. What does he need Rivers money for? What he wants is for Fubara to govern properly. He should govern properly. Relate with the House of Assembly. Relate with the stakeholders. Stop bringing people who never wanted him to be governor. They are his friend now. They are the one telling him to go and cut other people's head. Wike does not want anybody anything from Fubara. He wants Rivers to be run properly. He wants rule of law respected.
Yeah, but at what point?
State,
at what point?
We make pronouncements, and the governor does another thing.
Yeah. At what point did Sim Fubara stop running Rivers properly? That Nyesom Wike decided that it was time to step in. I mean, it seems like it was almost immediately, after he became governor. So at what point, if that is the sole concern of the FCT minister. So at what point did he realize that Fubara is not...
At the point that... At the point that fire was set at the House of Assembly, at the point that the House of Assembly was prevented from sitting, at that point that House of Assembly wanted to sit, and someone took talks there. Governor led talks with the House of Assembly. That was the point. Because the governor is the governor, heading the executive arm of government. The House of Assembly is there on its own. They have right to change their speaker. They have right to change the... Shebi in Lagos State, they changed the speaker last week. So at the point that the governor interfere with the function of the House of Assembly, that was when this crisis started.
Okay, just to also clarify, you made reference to Kogi State, and the predecessor, Yahya Bello, who of course, is now having his run-in with the EFCC, nominating commissioners and other, government heads in Kogi State, which Governor Ododo doesn't seem to have a problem with. We can maybe also say the same thing will be happening in Edo State, as it stands. So are you, pretty much saying that that's the same thing that happened in River State? Did Nyesom Wike nominate, commissioners? Did he also, appoint, or rather nominate commissioners and also members of the House of Assembly in River State?
Well, you know that governance is by stakeholders. Positions are allocated. You are aware that the daughter of former governor of River State, Dr. Peter Odili, is a commissioner in this government. Who nominated her? The father nominated her. The same way, because look at this thing. In every local government in River State, there are stakeholders. If you want to bring commissioner, you ask the stakeholders, who do you want? So in most cases, too, you cannot say that the governor will be the 100% that will nominate his commissioners. No. Because he did not on himself become governor. People work, people labored, people suffered for him to be governor. So, and they want reward too. So if you are saying that Wike took part in nominating commissioner, I will not say no. And it is his right as stakeholder, as a stakeholder in River State. You will not say that a governor who uses political strength to make you governor, political strength to make you as an assembly member, and that person will not say one day, okay, this person work for us in Opobo, make him commissioner.
Yeah, but that's not, Mr. Lainka, there's a problem here because...
work for us in this local government.
Yes, but that means that appointments are being made not based on the credibility and the pedigree of these people, but mostly because of favors being given by the political leader of the state. This has nothing to do with improving governance in River State. This is, from what you're saying, is mostly friends of the family get positions. You are a loyalist, so you get a position. It has nothing to do with governance. It doesn't improve on governance in River State. It doesn't benefit the people of River State. And that's what you've described, entirely. That people that are commissioners in River State are part of this big family, political family in River State. So they will get something. You will get your own. This person will get his own. But they have nothing to do with their capacity to actually run those ministries, to be House of Assembly members. Don't you see the problem here?
So because you, as a journalist working in a New Central Television, if you now choose to take part in politics, contribute to election, you are no longer competent to be commissioner for information. Because a doctor is now playing active role in politics. When there is time for appointment, that doctor can no longer be made commissioner for health, is no longer competent. Because I don't understand when people come to tell us they want to bring technocrats that will make government better. When people are running around for election, technocrats will stay in Lagos, in Abuja, drinking tea in their house. When politicians now struggle to win an election finish, you now say they should bring technocrats. If you are technocrat, you want to be part of government, take part in politics.
Okay, Mr. Layinka, I mean, because
for elections, and there are professionals in politics too.
Mr. Layinka, I get your point. I think we're going to continue this conversation some other time in order to expand more on this conversation. I'm sure this rift is not ending anytime soon. But finally, just for clarity, we did have a guest join us yesterday from the PDP, a spokesperson, Mr. Demola, and he did talk tough, especially looking at the aspect that he said your superior, who happens to be the FCT minister, is actually acting as a mole. He's acting as a mole for the APC in the PDP. My question to you, my final question, because we're out of time apparently, is where does Wike stand? Is he a member of the APC or a member of the PDP? I don't mean being a member of the PDP and working for the APC. Where does he stand? Can you clarify this to us finally? Because I know during the media chat, it seems to be a question that he answers in quotes, not too clearly.
Wike till this morning, Wike till this morning, till tomorrow is a member of PDP. But I would have loved you to have asked that person. It's my brother, it's my friend too. You would have asked him. He's a supporter of Atiku. You would have asked him the role Atiku played in the election of Lagos in 2003. It was Atiku that frustrated PDP effort to win Lagos in 2003. You should have asked him what Atiku did in 2007. Playing anti-party, contesting as president while still being member of PDP. You should have asked him. You should have asked him who led PDP to lose power in 2015. It was Atiku. The rebellion he led. It was Atiku who led that rebellion. And people are protesting now. People are protesting. They are saying that we can no longer work in this party, and one individual who has been the cause of problem of PDP since 2003 will come and benefit. That is what we are saying. People are protesting. The problem of PDP today is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. The day you remove him from PDP, PDP will have peace. He has been problem of PDP since 2003. He frustrated PDP effort to win Lagos in 2003. He, alongside Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, formed Action Congress in 2007, even as sitting vice president. He led PDP in 2014. It was the rebellion that he led that pushed PDP out of power. So what are they talking about? Wike. Was it Wike that made Ayu to be adamant and say, I'm not resigning? Was it Wike?
All right, Mr. Layinka.
Was it Wike?
We need to wrap the conversation up here.
2014? Was it Wike?
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I did enjoy having this conversation with you. And we hope that you join us again, as soon as possible. Thank you very much for joining us again. And we wish you a very wonderful Wednesday ahead.
Definitely.
Absolutely. All right. Now, let's move away from politics, and go into other issues in Nigeria. POS operators might soon jack up their charges following a recent approval of 50% increase in telecom service tariffs. AMBAN, and that's the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, says the tariff hike will hit their members hard since their operations rely heavily on telecom services like data. The association's PR person, Ogoni, stated that the push, and of course this move rather could push service charges up for Nigerians who patronize point-of-sale operators as a source of cash.
Well, meanwhile, NATCOMS, which is the National Association of Telecom Subscribers, is not accepting this upward review, and they have promised to take the federal government to court, calling the hike a huge no, which is like NO for Nigerians who are already struggling with fuel and electricity price hikes. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, approved this 50% increase after the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, ALTON, and the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, ATCON, requested for an upward review of pricing following an 11-year fixed price. Well, we do have joining us to discuss this is policy analyst Charles Asebu. He joins us live, especially via a video conferencing. Thank you so much, Charles, for being here. Let's quickly look at what the situation truly is. We've all accepted that one way or the other, the federal government has told us that whether we like it or not, given very clear reasons that there will be an increase. So everyone needs to brace up. Can you tell us if this increase is coming, one, at the right time, and looking at the policies beneath it, do you think it is something that could have been overlooked and possibly there would have been a pre-plan before execution?
Thank you very much. I think one thing is that they have the need to taking just bold policies. This is a conversation, but on the one thing we must take to is the fact that the government has consistently.
Well, we seem to have a little network connectivity issue there. We can't really hear you, Charles, and hopefully we hope you get to join us again so we can continue this conversation. But then again, it's all about the increase and what it will do, the impact it would have on every single Nigerian. Well, don't forget that if you were indeed purchasing data for a particular price, take for instance, there is 500 naira data which gives you 2 gigabytes that you can use for 1 day. By 50%, it means that 500 naira would increase by 50%, which if you put it together, it's going to be 250 naira. So it means you'll be buying that same 2 gigabyte for 1 day, which was formerly 500 naira. It will be going for about 750 naira. Of course, we've seen differences in terms of what the cost would be for those who are very, very adept in using their data, making calls, and so on and so forth. Some have said that this would impact heavily on the cost of living. We've also seen how it's going to impact on the POS operators. And by the way, don't forget, with the new CBN rule, mobile banking and so on and so forth has indeed also seen a little addition in terms of cost that would go to the pockets of those who use these applications. Take, for instance, one of the fastest growing microfinance bank. Before, when you make a transfer of about 20,000 naira, either to someone or maybe pushing that money into your account, what you get absolutely would remain the same amount. But but with the current CBN review and policies, if you make such amount into that account, what will happen is you would actually to take away about 50 naira, so you'd be left with about 19,950. But let's see, we'll have our guest here. We're talking about the policy and the timing, if it's right, looking at the current situation of Nigerians. So Charles, thanks for making it back again. Let's see if you can go ahead with your comments.
Yes, I apologize for that break in transmission.
It's fine.
I was just saying that the government has continued to show that they have the willpower to move the needle, to take very impressive, bold policy steps. Whether these policy steps are effective or are relevant is another conversation. But what we must take note is that the government has been unable to, conduct pulse check, to be innovative in taking these steps, and, has been unable to engage the people and ensure that they take ownership of some of these policy efforts. So to understand the Telecom's tariff hike, it's important to note that there are 3 buckets of stakeholders. One is the operators, the second is the government, and then the people. For the operators, they argue that they have, continued, they are still pushing for this hike since over 10 or 11 years. And they cited several reasons, like rising energy costs, the inflation, currency devaluation, food inflation, and all these things. For inflation, we already know that it is up there, 34% up there. Food inflation, I can realistically tell you that it is about 100% these days. And they argue that, that they have become the palliative
of the economy. And another key argument that they have made was that it is very, very expensive to maintain the sector, and for them to continue to offer very efficient services. It is important that they are able to charge what is required to sustain their equipment and facilities, and also give customers the satisfaction that they need. So I think they have made a very clear case on why this should happen. But the government has come to say, okay, look, we are pegging this hike at 50%, even though the operators are asking for 100%. I do not think that a 50% is the way to go, given the current circumstances. In Egypt last year, they had a similar issue, and what they introduced was like a 10 to 15% hike increase to test the waters and continue to engage the people. And then in phased approaches, they can increase as time comes. But the government, is making the argument that they have done Nigerians a favor by not increasing it by 100% and increasing it radically to 50%. I think that is insensitive. I think that the government has continuously, acted in such a manner that it looks as though that they are the ones leading themselves. So if it is people-centric, the government would have continued to engage the people and adopted a strategy where they are increasing it gradually. One argument is that we don't currently know why the government has chosen to increase it at this point, since renewed request for increase started about mid last year. But it could be that the government has is allowing us settle in or adjust, because we are chronic adjusters. They're allowing us settle into new reform efforts that are that has continued to plunder us into poverty. And then after a period of time, they look at another set of policy that they know. Of course, Nigerians are adjusters and they have absorbed it.
Yep.
They are not ahead to introduce something else. So I don't think it's the right step to take at this point, given the current realities.
There's that very strong argument that is insensitive because of inflation, and the current economic realities for Nigerians. Even SERAP is asking that they do a reversal. But do you see any sense in the appeal by the telecoms companies themselves? Their argument, of course, that in 13 years they haven't had any significant increment in these rates. The cost of operation, for companies across Nigeria, has increased significantly. They say that they've, received or seen about a 300%, increase in operational cost. And so, is it something that you can find, some understanding with? That if it used to cost these telecom companies $1 billion, before, now it's costing them $3 billion, to run this, one thing or the other. But, they're pretty much still earning the same things from their businesses. So is this something you would understand?
Yeah. Like, my first argument was that, they have a very good and clear, focus on why this tariff should be increased. Because, yes, it's very expensive to operate in that sector. And given the competition and the required people like, so for example, if for a full day, if they're on MTN is or any of all of these operators is unable to provide the data service, for example, it means the economy is going to suffer for it. If people are not able to use WhatsApp, use Facebook, and all of that because the data is down or the systems are down, it's going to affect the economy, tremendously. So it is important that they are able to charge, and maintain their systems and provide the needed service to drive the economy. The argument is clear, and I agree that it is good. But the problem has been the government's ability to effectively manage both the operators and the people. The government has argued that they say it is in their role to ensure that consumer protection is alive, and also ensure that businesses or investors are able to make profit. It's in their hand, but it's the management of the process that is a problem. If you say you want to increase it, on what grounds are you increasing it now? Have you extensively engaged the stakeholders? Of course, we have seen what NATCOM has come to say, that there was no agreement, they did not agree to it. And the government has gone ahead to release a memo to say, okay, look, we have approved this thing. But NATCOM is saying, you did not consult us extensively. We did not agree that this should continue. And now they are threatening a legal action because they have seen that, if if food inflation, for example, is 100% because of the increment, on devaluation of naira and increment in the petrol prices, with the increment of telecom's tariff right now, they are predicting that there will be a jack-up across board. Commodities will skyrocket. Yeah, if food inflation is 100%, they are predicting that it will be about 120 or thereabout. So that is the problem, because the government has, like I said, is showing willpower, but it's not showing innovation, in solving some of the problems that we are facing. If you feel it is long overdue because it's over 13 years, why are you doing it now? What is the yardstick? And if you're doing it now, how are you, providing measures to ensure that, one, that the people are carried along effectively and they understand why you're doing what you're doing, and what are you providing to ensure that, there's some of cushion, for the people to be able to absorb this increase and live their lives well. People are passing through a lot, and you keep bringing all of these policies that make it look like, you're leading yourself and you're not leading the people. The validation of governance is, that the people have, or the people is backing those that are leading them. That's what validates governance. So whatever policies you make, if you have strong willpower and the people are saying something else and you're not doing pulse checks and you're not carrying them along, I feel, that kind of invalidates your authority as government.
Mr. Segbu, so what do you think would have been done first? I'm asking that question because, one, let's also cut the telcos some slack, because there is rising cost in terms of softwares. We do understand that these softwares need to be upgraded, updated. The salaries of the staff that work in different departments of these telco companies, be it the technicians, engineers, and so on, can no longer remain the same. Looking at the fact that Nigeria's current exchange rate, FX with dollar naira, we see where it's going to. So where they're going to get the money from. There's also wanton destruction of, when you talk about the mast, telco mast, we've seen what's going on in the north. They have to battle with fixing these things, and you have to sometimes go with security operatives and so on. So I'd like you to look at the broader aspect of, and feel the pain, as it were, of these telco companies. And what do you think could actually be the only way to ensure that, even if tariffs should be reviewed upward, it should be able to at least cater to the current concerns, while Nigerians would not be left bearing the entire burden? Are we looking at maybe subsidizing? Is that an option? And what do you think?
Yes, so I think, if the telcos are passing through what they are passing through right now, the government should be able to, give them some, tax breaks or something just to encourage them, while they figure out how they want to, push forward this initiative or this policy, and then get the people to subscribe to it and then go ahead to implement it. Pushing out policies are good, like I said, but what is important is how you're able to manage the situation. We have seen what happened during the fuel subsidy removal and, the back and forth between citizens and the government and the marketers. We saw, a situation whereby the government did not have a clear plan on how to help people move along. For a long time, even up to this moment, transportation has remained the problem. So let's say people have, abandoned their cars to say, okay, let's even be using public transport. Using Abuja as an example, you can see that the transportation system is not there yet, and it will take a lot of time for the government to put the required infrastructure. And that's why I said that innovation is not there, that proper engagement is not there, for the people to say, okay, this is why the government is doing this, and we have seen their effort to providing alternatives that we can adopt for the meantime, relevant alternatives that will help us cushion the effect. Telcos have to survive, they have to pay staff, they have to increase salaries just to meet up with the current realities. But the government has, the government is also, is interested in taxing, increasing tax and collecting, generating revenue, If a good way would have been to say, okay, look, guys, we know you're passing through this problem. We want to give you tax breaks. We want to give you some incentives or provide, the atmosphere for you to thrive in these hard times as operators. And then we can go ahead to now review how we want to, hike the tariff. And like you asked, I think a good way would have been to put it in phased, have a phased approach towards it. Starting from like 10% or 15% to like another 10%, gradually just increase it while also engaging the people, while also providing, relevant alternatives and ensuring that, previous policy efforts are yielding the kind of economic growth and progress we want to see, and that people are stabilizing. That way, it is as, people will understand that the government is thinking about them first before any other thing else. But as it is like, the government is interested in generating revenue to run the government. And then, the very painful thing about it is that you see bogus budgets for irrelevant, luxurious goods that the government officials are living on. So it doesn't just make sense. This is not the right time.
All right. Anyway, I want to say thank you so much, Charles Sigbu, for joining us. And thanks for shedding light. I think, truthfully, if we look at it very carefully, there could be a balance and possibly raising it by in bits. That's possibly 10%, 15%, and see how testing the waters it would look like on the economy and Nigerians would be a fair deal. Thanks for joining us and shedding light on the policies that could actually be followed, especially on this topic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
It's been one very interesting hour plus. Yes, I could say plus, because we've had a fantastic conversation looking at the Ogoni issue and not forgetting too many more. But let's bring a recap of what we've talked about so far in the first hour. In the first hour, we've reviewed the FCT Minister's media chat. And also, we had his essay join us, Mr. Larry Lanka, who spoke deeply on some of the issues in River State and the FCT Minister. Telecom Subscribers Association, they rejected a tariff hike, and you did have a policy analyst. We just had that conversation not too long ago. And our package, we talked about Ogoni stakeholders meeting with the president and the conversations that indeed were held. Let's go straight to what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central.
Coming up next, SERAP issues a 48-hour ultimatum to the government, and also bring you the newspaper front pages, what are the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning, and also, finally, which way Nigeria?
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central, and thank you so much for dropping your comments on all our socials. Let's go straight to the front pages of the papers. We do have our public affairs guests and analysts who's here with us. Nyesom, thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure you, I don't know, I think I saw you. You were one of those jumping or celebrating Donald Trump. I don't know if you're the one.
Yeah. Actually, my twin brother, who I sent there to represent the family.
Okay, I see. Great one.
Good morning and thanks
Good
for
comeback. Good comeback. Let's take a look at the front page. Let's start off first with the leadership. The leadership, we do have meter producers, Ghana, Benin, Niger, and others. That's got to do with a story concerning electricity. You might want to check that out. 50% telecom tariff increase, not across board, NCC says. This is a development. So that's a developing story concerning that. Abuja Kaduna Kano Road contractor competent, federal government says. We did talk about it early this morning. Minister of Works David Umahi did come out to, downplay that story we saw yesterday on the front page of Daily Trust. Poor remuneration behind Japa syndrome, CMDs say. I'll take another one. 2.3 billion Mambila project case. Buhari makes appearance at ICC tomorrow. We also have that former President President Olusegun Obasanjo will also make an appearance there. And that's pretty much all from the leadership.
All right, away from the leadership, let's go to the Punch newspapers. It says here, bandits influx. Amotekun mobilizes 2,000 men to comb Southwest Forest. Corps seeks advanced technology, arms, and better equipment to tackle insecurity in the region. Tinubu promises fairness as Ogoni oil exploration plan resumes. And also how El-Rufai's ex-chief of staff laundered 3.9 billion naira forex proceeds, says the ICPC. Supreme Court hears Wike Fubara loyalist appeal February 10th. Immigration arrests 90 foreigners for cybercrime in River State. Top of the screen, Nigeria's public debt hits 142 trillion naira as borrowing rises. Rural areas suffer blackout despite 14 billion naira power spending. And also And NPC raises petrol price to 999 in the FCT and 960 in Lagos.
Anyway, let's see if we can... let's take one more. Daily Independence. Let's go to Daily Independence this morning. Let's see what paper we have next. Yes, Daily Independent. Alleged sale of a federal government assets in Kano tears workers' company apart. Workers petition Attorney General of the Federation, Kano government. We follow due process in our transactions. MD NRC property. Railway Workers Union president says petitioners are faceless. Another one, our hospitals will soon be empty of doctors, nurses, CMDs lament. Tinubu steers economy in right direction to stay course, but Gudu says federal government alerts public on confirmed anthrax outbreak in Zamfara. Telecom tariff hike due to inflation rising costs, says Minister. Trump policies may weaken Naira, worsen Nigeria's debt servicing costs. That's an inside story. You might want to take a look at the Daily Independent. Let's go straight to our guest. Let's go straight to the very first story, Mr. Gwande. Let's look at this tariff hike, which is a conversation everyone is talking about. We just spoke about it not quite long ago. What's your take on that? The papers are also talking about it too.
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe I will, let me start from the place of a businessman, which I belong to. You observe that this issue of tariff with the telcos have been on a fixed rate since, let's say, 2012 or 2013 without any increase. And if you look at inflation, I think we moved above 300% from that period till now. And same has been same on the part of those people, possibly because I have few relationship with some of these service providers in terms of the power that they make use of. I can tell you that the cost at which they pay now for electricity or the alternative power supply is high the roof. And I ask myself, where is the cost of survival for this organization? For me, approving the 50% hike is something that is long overdue, because the failure that we are experiencing for this hike was caused by the government. The annoying thing there is that the hike is going to be bought by the citizen and not government making provision for the problem they created. Inflation is not created by you and I. It is failure of insecurity, inconsistency that we have in terms of foreign exchange, and the business climate that is really not conducive for businesses to grow. Those are the things that are actually responsible. And I always tell individuals, when you look at a situation where you say, don't increase the price of something, and because the organization already are enjoying some largesse, if you kill that organization who provides the services, that's the area that we must definitely look at. You see, government here is responsible for what we have faced here. We cannot continue to blame it on the private sector, who we all know that the essence of business is business. You go into business for you to maximize your profit, and that's why the regulators are there to make sure that they streamline. Who and I would know definitely that in the last 10 years, you have not increased the price of tariff of what you're selling. I'm sure you know that the price of ordinary pure water is not the same 10 years ago to what we have now.
Absolutely.
But those people have been consistent, looking for a way. I was discussing with a friend, and he said, Nyesom, don't put up the fence for those people. They were actually overpricing us before now. I said, for me, it's not actually the problem, but the regulators who are actually there to regulate, to make sure that at least by then would have been enjoying it. Because a lot of us came out and said the cost of tariff then was on the high side. But the operator said, no, we are even struggling to make ends meet. And that's on the premise of transparency that we keep saying when they carry out things. So for me, I feel the hike, if we have to go by the logic of what everyone is faced in terms of inflation, the high cost of operation for this organization, the 50% hike is highly considerable. But the area of failure is that government created those problems, and they are actually not standing up to responsibility to defend the citizen, who on the long run bear the cost that will come out of it. Because I can tell you, if those infrastructure are not there to be maintained by the operators, you and I will go back to the Stone Age, when we have to go everywhere to carry out our operation.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know a lot of us banks ride on some of this infrastructure
Absolutely.
to make life meaningful for their customers.
Yeah.
If those people cease the business, that means you go back to the age of a tally number when you have to wait for hours. When a lot of people have not visited banks for years because they have a platform at which they can ride on.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really tough to argue against it, because if every other person, like you mentioned pure water, every other person, has had to increase their prices because of, an increment in production cost, and cost of operations generally. It's really tough, but I get your argument that, how really have they been running the operations for the last 13 years without, increasing. Because, those operational costs have definitely, been increasing bit by bit. It has just been completely staggering in the last 2 years and the last 3 years because of, the removal of petrol subsidy and all of that. But the arguments will continue. I know Serap is asking that they do a reversal. I'm sure the arguments will continue until we'll see where it lands. On the Punch this morning, Amotekun mobilizes 2,000 men to comb Southwest Forest. It's back again to talking about arming the police and the security infrastructure in the southwestern state, and of course for states to be able to run their own security infrastructure. Do you agree that we should start taking that conversation more seriously, or is Amotekun going to be enough to really protect the southwest?
Yeah, I think it's a conversation that is long overdue. We can't be doing the same thing the same way. I expect different results. We've been having this centralized way of policing, and it's about people taking instruction from the center in Abuja. The state governors have limited control over the CP. Whatever you need to carry out, the instruction must come from the big Oga in Abuja, who may not understand, the pressure that the chief security officer, you call somebody chief security officer of a state, but he does not have direct control over who is responsible in managing that affair. And that's why this issue of discussing state policing, local vigilante policing will continue to be on the burning side for discussion all the time. Can we do something different? You see, up till now, I'm still shocked as an individual, knowing fully well the position of Mr. President on this issue of state policing. They started RRS in Lagos. I'm sure some of the guys that were actually uplifted, RRS actually gave them that promotion. When you talked of the like of Egbetokun, Egbetokun himself worked in RRS. There's this other man, I think Tunji Disu. They all worked there, and we saw the way they fortified RRS in giving swift response when the conventional police were not responding to things. And Lagos seems to be a bit secure at that point in time. Is to tell you that if you're able to, and there is this Lagos State Security Trust Fund in synergy with the private sector where they can get the funding to enhance them.
I mean, Fashola really champion that.
So these are things that we're saying that when you give that in the hands of the state, I know the fear of everyone is that the state governors will not use the apparatus, maybe during election or against people. But don't forget, those people swear the oath of doing what is right at every point in time as a security operative, not to be used in the hands of some of these so-called politicians. And it's about 4 years. If you do your own and you leave, those personnel are still there in the service for the people. So I feel that we need to go to this, take this issue of state policing seriously. This Amotekun is regionalized security process. I will give kudos to late Akere Dolu. I believe if the man was still alive, we would have gone far with this Amotekun of a thing. The fight he actually put up to legalize it, give those backing up. But immediately he died, we all went to back, or not until what we see playing out now is being reactive to issue based on the alarm raised by the governor of Oyo State. And we cannot continue to handle the issue of security in a reactive manner. We should be proactive. If we have actually followed through this idea of Amotekun by the Southwest state, we will not, in fact, those that are planning to infiltrate into the system, we take caution to say that is no-go area. But now, they've actually infiltrated into the place. We are now commissioning 2,000 or recruiting. The recruitment process would have been gradual, not the drastic one that we are trying to do now. And a lot of these people would have actually acclimatized with the work process in such a way to have create that, initiative of protecting the area of coverage that they have actually been put into is something that is long overdue. And I will continue to say that as obtainable in the developed clime, that is the way to go. You have you have county police, you have metropolitan police, you have scattered around. When you go to developed world, when something happens, before a GP, set of police are actually there. So you can imagine if you give some of this even responsibility to the locals, where traditional rulers are given that responsibility to make sure that where they are actually ruling is actually being protected. If you go to Borno, Yola, where this attack are happening, it's not happening in the city. If you go to Maiduguri, as I speak to you, the capital of Borno State, people are carrying out their businesses. I have a friend who traveled and said, so I can't match the news of unrest in Borno with what I'm seeing here. And I said, yes, you are the capital of the state. If there is going to be any attack in Oyo State, in Lagos State, in any part of Southwest, it's not going to be capital. You cannot try anything in Ikeja. You can't try anything but when you go to the suburb, maybe when you move towards Agbowa, where those areas are just, you have remote people. Those people galvanize that area, cause unrest there. If you go to even the other thing Ibadan is secure. But when you go to areas like the suburb, like Okiogun, that vast land are just there without anything happening. Those are areas where these people will perpetrate their ills. And I feel that if we can develop this state, either regional, either local vigilante, to man every areas where we are, we will definitely have that security intact. And when areas are secure, you give prosperity even to the people that are in there. I always tell people, years back, I enjoy traveling at night. And for now, it's a suicidal mission.
No,
don't even travel during the day from one location to the other.
I even was reading someone's social media status yesterday or this morning, only to find out that they were attacked by bandits on their way to Abuja a couple of days ago, and one person in the vehicle was killed, another was kidnapped. The rest of them were able to somehow escape, but it is still a reality, with regards to road travel.
That's what happens practically like every day. Those days, why do I enjoy night driving? The weather is cool. You can move at your pace. It's not busy. I can leave
and the
Lagos,
roads are dry.
I can leave Lagos around 6 and be going to Akure. That's the way I do it. But I'm talking of about 17 years ago. I won't try that even during the day. If I even want to go to Akure, I want to fly, if it's a business venture. Yeah. If you have a ceremony that you want to invite me in those areas, I will just tell you that don't worry, there are activities for me to do. I can do a transfer to at least to make my own.
Okay, I think I have an activity in Akure.
In Akure? Yeah. So just give the location. They will do the needful that is expected. But you can imagine the impact of this insecurity on those days. People travel at night from Lagos to the east now. You travel at night, go there, carry out your business. The next night, you're already returning to nobody knows.
I've had an uncle who in a day will be able to go to Ibadan, come back and still make a trip again down to another nearby state and still come back. And he's one of those persons who would tell you that he loves the night travel as well. Even though he would do those two trips in a day, at night,
the other one,
very calm and so on. But it's quite different. Let's look at Senate wants conduct of national census this year. It's been a long time coming. Quite sadly, that during the last, during President Muhammadu Buhari's, administration, monies were doled out. Trainings were done, but it seems like nobody's talking about the money that was actually spent, and nothing was done again.
It's not new. That's the way we lack accountability in some of the activities that we carry out. I'm sure if you ask tomorrow now, different story will come out that possibly it was budgets that we saw that no money was. And you ask, where is the Accountant General of the Federation to actually react to this, whether funds was disbursed or not? And where is our EFCC to actually trail those funds to say this was done, but the project was not executed. These are the wastages we keep saying that we are faced with in the country. It's quite disheartening that we have to be begging for census to be carried out. When you don't know the figure, maybe because I'm an accountant, you play with figures. When you are not affirmative of certain things that is going on in your locality, how do you make effective planning for those people? You cannot actually state categorically the number of people in your local government. You cannot say categorically the number. We've been working with what I call projection. Yeah. Lagos is 30 million. The federal government will say is 20 million. Lagos, we said by their last draft, things that they have done, we are about 30 million. Kano, we say they are 50 million. This one we say, can we have, and we now have technology. We have different data being collated. BVN. And it's difficult to synergize. You have BVN, you have NIN. The only one they've not introduced is to introduce either APC or PDP as a way of actually collecting your data. Driver's license is there, international passport is there. Students are being registered in school. We have, how are we, I keep asking myself, what will it take you to integrate this data for you to be able to have an actual figure or near actual for effective planning? I
think they need to do a proper census, because these, not everybody is banked in Nigeria. Not also everybody, uses cell phones. Not everybody has, NIN. So, I mean, it wouldn't be an accurate enough figure. We need to do a proper census.
No, we will. That's why I'm saying that censor is important. But even with the censor, you need to integrate some of this data so that there won't be this overlapping. If you need an information, FRC will say, bring your own. Banks will say, bring your own. Can't we have a central database? And that on its own, we even tame all these funny activities being carried out by people out there. You should be able to. Do you know, even with the BVN, we are not monitoring things. Somebody will collect money from Bank A and refuse to pay, go to Bank B. When you have BVN that link all your accounts together to say this, people can transfer money from one place to the other. Are they being monitored? I feel what we need to do is to drive some of these activities with the technologies that we have. Synergize those things that anyone that requires information about individuals, about even the actual number of people. There are private sector that wants to make social responsibility to an area. I can tell you, if you have database of activity, the menace that happened in Oyo State would have been averted. Somebody would have had a data to plan with on the expected. You may not have the actual, but you have figures that you can do. But as we speak, it's difficult to even have access when you have states having conflicting figure. Federal government will say this is this figure they have for the state. The state will say we've carried our own internal checks and this is what we have. Which one do you follow? So when you have international support agency that wants to actually come and contribute to the growth of your economy, which data are you giving them for them to work with? Censor is key, and it's not something that the National Assembly will be giving a marching order. It's what is expected of us so that we can have an holistic view, and it will aid our planning. When you have figures, you will be able to know what you will plan. But I feel that it will not be, manipulated for political reason. We'll have the actual to play out for effective planning and the growth of the country.
Yeah. Nyesom Konde, thank you very much for stopping by this morning and for speaking with us on these very important issues. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it's always a great time to have you start
like I
the
said,
day
I have an
away.
event in Akure.
The only issue is it's been an hardware presentation this morning. And I think our viewers will just be looking, where is the software? That will compliment it.
Yours are important. Nice. They are more concerned about the conversations we're having. All right. Thanks a lot. Stay with us. We take a very short break. When we come back, we continue with Breakfast Central this morning. I'll start this morning by saying rest in peace to all those who perished in the Niger State tanker fire incident. 98 people were reportedly killed in a petrol tanker fire incident in Niger State. Now, while it is really sad that poverty and desperation would lead citizens of the biggest black nation on earth to damn all safety concerns and go scoop petrol from a fallen tanker, certain things must still be said. There is no standard with which government at all levels functions with in Nigeria. Standards that should express value for life and accountability. Accountability to the Nigerian people. 98 lives will only be lost like that in a society where, first of all, poverty has dehumanized citizens to that extent, and that also government at every level has failed to create the most basic societal infrastructure, the most basic security infrastructure, and has no standards with which it must operate to show its value for life, because that's the way it should work. In a sane society, you would expect that when there is such an accident, there would be police officers present within minutes. Those officers will then immediately call on fire trucks. I mean, those officers will cordon off that area and ensure that no greedy or desperate individuals from those communities tries to take advantage of the accident and put themselves in harm's way. Because as much as you expect humans to be careless, and desperate because of greed or hunger, it is still the government's responsibility to ensure that safety standards are in place and that all emergency architecture is in place, because that must be the set standard with which a responsible government will operate. I mean, when we're talking about arrival of police vehicles and fire trucks, they should even be asking themselves, how long did it take? Our standard should be 5 minutes. Our standard should be 2 minutes. In the corporate sector, in the corporate world here, failure to adhere to certain standards would either cost you a query or maybe even cost you your job. If you look at it in the telecom sector, in banking, in FMCGs. But government here doesn't work that way, because the Nigerian state does not understand or care about its role to protect the Nigerian citizen. There's not that much value placed on the Nigerian citizen. There's no acceptable standard with which these agencies must function that represent the level of value the government places on life in Nigeria. Niger State is not going to hold itself responsible for failure to take actions that should have protected those lives. The Nigerian state itself does not hold itself to such standards either. And so from one fire explosion in Jigawa to the next one, nothing significant will change. Don't expect that the government in Niger State is going to realize how much it failed those 98 citizens and ensure that security and emergency infrastructure will improve in the next 1 year or maybe even the next 10 years. The failure of government to set these standards tells you how much value your life has to the Nigerian state. The average Nigerian will get into primary school, graduate, start life, have kids, maybe even 3 or 4 children. The express road that was bad when that Nigerian was a teenager will still be bad when he has a second child. That road or security infrastructure will be bad. Government after government, budget after budget, National Assembly after National Assembly, minister after minister, budget padding after budget padding. That the most basic infrastructure will still not improve. You will grow from an infant to a full adult, and there will still not be adequate firefighting infrastructure in your state, because your government will not take blame when it fails you, and because your life as a Nigerian is not prioritized enough to ensure that these agencies work with the highest standards that express the value for your life. Good morning, Nigerians.
Well, you can rightly say they're food for thought, and better still, thought-provoking. Well, let's wrap things up to remind you that Serap has also spoken concerning the tariff hike, especially in the telecom sector. Well, the Socio-Economic Rights Accountability Project yesterday issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the federal government and telecommunication companies, which is telcos, to reverse the recent 50% hike in the cost of calls and data. Now, Serap made this demand via a tweet describing the tariff increase as unlawful and promising to take legal action if it is not rescinded within the stipulated time frame. The tariff increase has raised significant concerns among Nigerians, as many depend heavily on telecommunication services for their businesses, education, and social interactions. Now, let's quickly take a look at this. Now, phone calls, if you make a minimum phone call, you call daily, the minimum rate would increase from 6.40 kobo, that's 6 naira 40 kobo. It's going to be 9 naira 60 kobo per minute now. No more 6 naira 40 kobo. It's now 9 naira 60 kobo per minute. While an average rate rises from 11 naira to 15 naira 50 kobo per minute. What about SMSs? I mean, I asked the question earlier on. Do people still send SMSs? I mean, why not, chat on WhatsApp or something? Anyway, the price for SMSs will jump. It definitely will, from 4 naira to 6 naira. And when it comes to data, I did mention the differences in data when I spoke earlier on about it. If the cost of data, which is 1 gigabyte, goes for 350 naira, it's going to increase to 525 naira. Well, let's look at the revenue boost. Now, telco operators expect to generate over 6.74 trillion naira in revenue in 2025. Operators have a projection. They're looking to earn 4 trillion naira, talking about the likes of MTN, Airtel, and also Glo, talking about 1.78 trillion, 436.2 billion, respectively, within these telcos. The big question is, how will this affect your pocket? What are you doing about it? Are you prepared? Well, there are reasons why the telcos need to review their prices upwards, just like our guests have rightly said when they joined us live. The reasons are indeed bare to all, and you cannot but agree that they just have to do something. But do you agree with the fact that it should be done, but maybe not by 50%? Well, we'll find out when the final decisions are being made. However, the federal government has indeed approved that they can go ahead. But let's see if the bodies that are disagreeing with the motion that they should go ahead would be able to do something, possibly go to court or something. But don't forget, the law also allows them to review the prices upwards, especially with the recent situation we find ourselves in today's economy. But that brings the show to an end, and I want to thank you so much for joining us and being part of the show, Breakfast Central, on a Wednesday. Tomorrow is going to be another day, and definitely the stories will continue here on News Central with our other programming.
It's goodbye from me as well. See you tomorrow, and wish you a very productive day ahead. I am Osaogi Ogbonwa.